Hi, this is Voss Graham, Senior Business Advisor and CEO at Interactive Consulting Group in Memphis, Tennessee. I want to talk to you today about something that's top of mind for me as I've worked with organizations around the country. And this element is stress. Stress seems to be a problem that all organizations, big and small, are having today. And it shows up in different ways, particularly for the employees. Now, some of the symptoms that stress is in play can be physical, where you have frequent illnesses, aches and pains, and low energy levels. Then there can be emotional impact, where irritability shows up on a regular basis, and feeling overwhelmed, and also a moodiness at the workplace environment. And all of these contribute to low levels of productivity. Then you've got cognitive issues or stress that shows up, or symptoms, excuse me, that shows up in the inability to concentrate, uh, memory problems. Now, it's not just old age; it can be a stress symptom. And then you have poor judgment. Poor judgment is something that particularly shows up with customer interaction and as well as with each other, working with peers, and this poor judgment in how we evaluate situations and circumstances can be very painful to the organization. And then you have behavioral symptoms that show up. These are eating and sleeping disorders, uh, procrastination, which is a biggie. I, I can always tell when I'm beginning to get stressed by the amount of procrastination that I suddenly started putting up with uh, in my own activities. So I know that stress can impact you in very negative ways. And then also nervous habits start showing up that haven't been in play in the past. Now, these are just the symptoms that people will frequently show to everyone around them, as well as, and they will become aware of this themselves. Now, before I get totally into stress or the sources of stress, I want to mention that stress can come in two formats, or actually three formats. You can have you can have just the right amount of stress, which allows for positive results. We have to have some form of stress, like a deadline pressure, to perform at higher levels and get things accomplished. And we need this in order to feel like we're moving forward, we're accomplishing stuff, we have meaningful work, etc. Now, there are two other negative forms. One is when you have no stress at all, period, zip, nada. What happens when we have that state is we are in a state of basically entitlement, and we just expect everything to be handed and given to us, and there's no effort uh, in order to achieve in anything we do, personal or workplace. And then we have the overabundance of stress. Now, once this gets way off the chart as far as intensity levels, then our productivity really drops. And those physical are the symptoms that I was talking about, and the physical, emotional, cognitive, and behavioral symptoms begin to show up quite frequently when a person is under high levels of stress. So these are things that you can look at to recognize. Now, one of the one of the exciting things that I want to share with you is that we now have a assessment tool that we can actually assess the sources of stress and give you a percentage score that you can compare and say, okay, I'm in good shape. I've got just enough stress to be a high performer. I've got zero stress. Uh-oh, I'm entitled. I'm not really pushing the envelope here in this category at all. And then we have the people who are just totally overwhelmed with stress levels and the sources of stress. Now, if we can pinpoint the exact source of our stress, then we can do something about it. Self-awareness is a starting point for all personal leadership and leadership within organizations. And once we know exactly where our stress is coming from, then we can do something about it if we choose to do that. And there are several sources that we can look at. One is the demands upon the job. So we also, those are that's a primary, and then subcategories are time management and possibly competency of the job match that you're in. You may be totally mismatched for your job, which would be a source of major, major stress. Then there's the effort reward imbalance is a source where you don't feel like you have a meaningful job or position and you're just doing stuff that has no meaning for you. And we know that meaningful work is a key factor in high performance. And then recognition and reward. Many of you need to have that recognition. I know there's a whole class of behavior styles that requires recognition in order to feel accepted, both personally and as within their own team. And then the reward balance. Is the recognition and reward balanced, or is it skewed to one side, which could be causing some stress? Then you have control issues, which means that are you involved in the control or the span of control of your own life at the workplace environment? And are you empowered? And meaning, do you have the authority and the responsibility to take action, make decisions, and move forward in your job position? Then there's organizational change. Now, organizational change seems to be a hot topic these days. Everybody's into changing something within the organization. So how is it communicated? If it's not communicated properly with the proper reasoning and whatnot, it can create massive stress. Then you have the evolution of how the organization is working, where it's going in the future, etc. Then you have probably one of the biggies is, in my opinion, which gives us the aspirational motivation to move forward and keep growing and excelling at what we do, which is vision. Do we actually know why we're in business, what we're trying to accomplish? Do we have that vision that creates some high energy and a high performing culture? Then you have the source called created by your manager or supervisor. These are and there's two subcategories that we look at there. Awareness, which is are the managers aware that you even exist? If you don't feel like you're part of the team or valuable, then there is a stress factor that's in play. And then there's the management style. Is the style so indifferent to the or to the group? Is there no empathy? Is it too demanding or not? There's all kinds of things that can come out of conflict within management style. And I've been called in to work with organizations where one manager is being turned in to HR basically every week because there's a conflict with somebody on his staff. And when I was brought in, it was just a management style issue. He had never had any training or development in the styles. Therefore, he was actually irritating the heck out of his team every day by being totally opposite from them. Once he understood that, he was able to then flex and give the instructions and direction for the team and answer their questions in the format that they understood, and then everyone was cooperating and moving forward, and the department as a whole accelerated their performance levels. Then there's social support is another source that we look at. Avoidance is one of the subcategories. Do people avoid you? And that can be stressful if you feel like the Lone Ranger and you don't want to be the Lone Ranger. Now, some of you actually want to be the Lone Ranger and you avoid. So we need to figure out if that's causing stress or not. And then there's the cooperation element that falls under this category. And then also frustration. How frustrated are you just working in a peer group? It can create some very strong issues for you as far as personal stress. Then there's finally the last one, the seventh one is job security. Now this one has really raised its little ugly head in view of the Great Recession and continued job job eliminations, restructures, etc. So job security is like top of mind awareness for a lot of people, and particularly certain style people that's their primary uh, stress trigger is job security. If they feel like they've lost it, then that stress goes off the chart. So there's some subcategories that we look at there. The one I was just referring to is job security. When people feel that they've lost their security in a job, then they begin to stress out, and the symptoms begin to show up big time in their everyday work life. Then you have opportunity. Some people need a whole lot of opportunity in order to stay motivated and focused on and have a stress that's under control and targeted. And then finally, the what I call one of the biggest issues in all of organizations is the trust issue. Is there trust within the job? Do people trust you? Do you trust others? How well is trust being managed from a leadership position within the organization? It will show up in this graph. Now, why am I talking about this? Stress is one of the biggest issues that individuals have relative to job performance. If you have too much stress, it's difficult to perform at a very high level. If you don't have enough stress to stay positive on your achievement of goals, then you're in this entitlement range and your productivity is close to zero. You're just kind of getting by. And in the long run, that will harm you as an individual and as well as your organization. So what I want to do is encourage you to think about how you can identify all these sources of stress so that you can then move forward. So I want you to pay attention to the information below this video. If you want to get a special individual report, it's available for you. And then if you want to have a dialogue about applying this for a whole team, or if you're an HR person and you want to look at how stress is impacting the organization as a whole and have your organizational development group work on eliminating the bad stress and encouraging the good stress, then we have team reports as well that we can talk about. But look down below and take advantage of any offers that I have. Sometimes I have a special offer, sometimes I don't. But what I'll do is give you the opportunity to become totally self-aware of what stress is doing to you and where are the sources and how it can impact you, whether it's positive or negative. So with that, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I look forward to the opportunity of assisting you, answering your questions. If you have questions, go ahead and contact me. Our phone number is 901-757-4434. It's Interactive Consulting Group in Memphis, Tennessee. I look forward to talking to you about this topic of stress and how to deal with it. I'm going to say deal with it because we do want some positive stress, but we do not want the negative. So with that, I thank you for your time. I look forward to assisting you in moving forward into a high productive, high performance world that I know you want to achieve. Thank you.